you know. Um, Multipolar Perspective gave us $5. Thank you very much. He said, I predict something vile is brewing on the left. From the rhetoric I see on the left about Gaza on TikTok mostly, they seem intent on placing the blame on white Christians. Do you think this will drive the next wave of anti-white violence? Well, we've seen, and I was discussing this with someone recently, we've seen the Jews' ham-fisted attempts to make this about like the patriotic people versus the pro-Palestinians. And you see this being done with more success in the wider Anglosphere, where there are large Muslim populations in the streets. I don't think it's been successful here. I was discussing with someone from the UK who was telling me that the Palestinian flags are just used by all the worst people there, and I was like, I don't think that is really something that even a lot of right-wing white people would associate.
No.
In America, it hasn't hit.
It's associated with its own thing.
Yeah, right. and so, like I said, my thing was what would be best for them is if they expel the Gazans and they're in Europe, and now it becomes like if you're for the Palestinians, you're against the white nationalists.
Right.
And Israel washes.
This is why I'm never going to support anyone in any context. You can tell me whatever the explanation is that goes up there and says, as a national socialist, I'm going to fight the communist Palestinians. Whatever the context is, I'm never going to support that because you're playing right into their hands, regardless of your fucking rationale, regardless if it's self-defense, regardless of this.
My counter argument is this, and this is the big one, is what I wrote on Substack about that Israel being their Stalin God. Like, if the white race is going to survive, Jewish power has to be defeated.
100%.
And
nothing
Jewish
short of that. There's no moving in the right direction. Nothing.
Right. And Jewish power is throwing everything it's got into this fight right now in Israel. And it's very important that they win. And
I'd also be careful what you see on TikTok, because as we know, it's now under the control of actual Israeli information agents.
Yes.
How do you know those videos aren't being cultivated and curated for you in order to create this non-existent conflict?
When we had the NJP, I was at a different event on the same day, but you participated in a protest, and my dad was there, and a lot of other good guys in front of the White House, where the NJP was protesting the war in Gaza. And if you look at, again, if you study what's happening with
and they loved us. The Palestinian people loved us there, and we did not hide that we were pro-white. You know why they loved us and why some of these other groups, they don't love you? Because we didn't try to jump on board some fucking anti-Islam protest and jump on board with the normie cons. We did our own thing, right? We separated ourselves from the conservatives and from the left. And that way our message was not convoluted or polluted by these other relationships. It's that simple.
Well, and I think that here's my point, is that the most dangerous thing for them right now, and again, it's a little different. The political dynamics on the ground are different in like the UK. I understand that. However, with that said, the thing that plays into their hands, as you said, is to make this about a left-right issue. So I see a thing happening, like, for instance, I mean, Emily's on Twitter, and she tells me how Jewish right-wing Twitter is, and how people, there's like a thing that the bad people have been trying to do for ages, to try to make it like a litmus test that you can't come out and be strongly pro-Palestine if you're, pro-white. And because it fractures the whole thing that they're trying to do.
Exactly.
They're trying to have a
Tucker is fucking destroying it.
That's what I said, man. That's what I said.
Tucker is destroying it. Tucker is such a rock in their shoe on this.
And Tucker, but also Marjorie Taylor Greene,
yes,
and also Thomas Massey, like the few lone voices on the right that are, and that's where it's, I recognize Fuentes is actually better on this issue than some of the people we're talking about, but
not really. Not really. Tucker is pro Hamas. He said Hamas is a nationalist group.
I'm not talking about Tucker. I'm talking about white nationalists. I'm talking about white nationalists on this issue as far as recognizing the Israel thing. But then then he's suspect when then he's deployed to attack Tucker. And there was a big New York Times puff piece about Fuentes following the Atlantic puff piece, which lovingly describes his exchange with Tucker and says the New York Times declares that Fuentes got the better of the exchange with Tucker. So
just so people know, don't come into my comments on Twitter with your like, you're getting this wrong. He's just red pilling the New York Times. I'm going to block you. I'm not going to debate you. I don't care how long you've been a fan of mine. If you are that stupid, I'm better off not having you anywhere near me or my audience.
If the Atlantic and the New York, and again, this doesn't even mean we were talking about this a little bit earlier. It might just be they're boosting him temporarily to fracture the thing.
That's exactly what's happening
around Tucker. But
exactly what's happening.
The point is that right-wing anti-Israel sentiment, and by that I mean specifically attacking Israel for its control, for its genocide, for everything it's doing bad, is the thing that is the monkey wrench in their whole, unless they can attach themselves to some party, right? Like the Aldag quote, the book quote. So that's where this is what it's all about. Like, and if I had a group right now, if there were a bunch of people out there that are communists or whatever, or leftists or Antifa with Palestinian flags, I do my own protest of Israel stuff in front of the embassy. But, I'm not going to try to join with them or make them my allies. Of course not. But
and I'm definitely not going to join the right-wing counter-protests against them.
I'm not going to avoid the issue, though, just because they are fakely trying to turn it into something that it's not. You know what I mean? I'm not going to step around the issue. In fact, I'm going to double down on the issue because only us National Socialists, the thing that makes National Socialists unique on this issue is that we have the silver bullet that defeats Jewish power, that the left never will, that we understand the problem is Jewish power. It's not Zionism, and it's certainly not.
All you have to do is nothing. You can do, if you really are a both sides guy, then just do nothing. Don't jump in front of the bullets meant for Jews. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Come on, man. Like, so I'm going to say straight up, okay? There's clearly, I personally have found in the last year that the lower and shittier and smaller the group, or the dumber and more online, the more edgelordy it is, the less radical it is in actual policy. So the thing with that we're seeing now is you have people like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene are increasingly more radical in the policies they're promoting about the Jewish question and the white race than a lot of 25-man little groups out there that call themselves National Socialists, that worship the devil and shit like that. All these people that are into James Mason and things like that. Like all these groups like that are less actually into ideologically less radical right now than Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes.
That's just the truth.
Yeah.
That is, I don't know why that is. I don't know why. We could speculate why that is. But whatever the cause of it is, that is ultimately the truth right now.
And they're trying to so Israel can't win without support in the West. So what they need is for protests against Israel to go away. Now, what better way to do that than if you can't just ban it, because you see what they tried to do here in the UK with arresting all these people. You see what they've done. They've been very effective in the United States. And it shows where the American oppression apparatus is much more sophisticated than the UK. In the UK, they're stupidly arresting all these banned organization. In the US, they just say, okay, if you're a student and you're for this, we're going to fucking deport you immediately. You're going to go right to the top of the list and we're going to deport you. That has chilled support for this so much because even the people there are a lot of Muslims maybe who were even born here or have citizenship, but their parents don't or their relatives don't. They don't want that kind of heat.
No.
And then the terror tactics and everything else. So one thing that white Americans could do is have a robust protest Israel movement. If we can protest Israel
for our own reasons. It doesn't have to be for anyone else. It has to be like, we don't want our money and our blood going to this Jewish. We don't want the Jews in charge of America either.
I want to make a point. I will weigh in one thing on this stupid. I don't like to get into this internet bullshit when people start calling names and making threats.
Hey,
it's
on the other side, my friend. Don't look at both sides.
But I will say this.
I don't threaten people. I don't make empty threats.
There was a claim made that you are lying. You were telling lies.
They always do that.
That claim is based on that claim is based on something that at most is you're emphasizing one thing and not emphasizing something else. But I will say that the same person making that claim, I heard last night, goes on to say verbatim that you want us to get on our knees and worship Palestinians, or simping for Palestinians. This is something I've heard. And when I hear that term, simping for Palestinians, I expect to hear that coming from the Baptist people.
Spectacled little Jew.
Well, I expect that to come from the Jew right. I don't expect that to come from self-described National Socialists. So the thing is, that is lying about what your position is. You have
they lie about
you argue it very robustly, and sometimes I would say abrasively. We get into abrasive arguments sometimes.
Why should I give a shit what some person on the internet says?
You don't give a shit about anybody.
No, I don't.
But which makes you abrasive sometimes. But with that said, that is a lie to say that that's what your position is.
No, it's
not. That is a lie to say that. And no one is saying that, and no one has said that, and that line comes from the BAF people and those motherfuckers. Right. So it's like, to have that seeping into our conversation, the critical thing here is there is no salvation for the white race unless Jewry goes down.
Defeated.
Yeah,
fully
it's the
defeated.
Number one issue. It is the top.
Nothing matters. Nothing else matters.
And the reason
you cannot get anything unless that happens.
And the reason I wrote that piece about calling it the Stalingrad of the Jews, what I meant by that was, at the same time the Battle of Stalingrad was going on, there were tons of battles going on elsewhere. There was war in North Africa and fucking all over in the Atlantic and the Pacific, everywhere. But you got to know what's the critical decisive battle that's happening. And if you are stepping away from that fight, if you're rationalizing it, or if you're getting gaslit, if someone's gaslighting you because of this bullshit that Palestinian flags, those are for those fucking, communists and lefties. You are what you're helping to do is you're over here. Well, I'm going to fight my people's battle over here. Well, you're fighting a battle in a theater that doesn't matter. Meanwhile, you're allowing them to, they're not diverting troops away. They feel like, okay, well, that theater is tied down. We can put everything we've got into the main fight, the main event. That's what they're doing. And if they win there, they're going to come for you later. They're going to sweep you up later.
The people like Joel Davis are saying I'm lying, but then at the March for Australia, the headliners at half the marches were all well-known Zionists, like Pauline Hanson, like Qatar, right? Like, why is a Lebanese person good if they're marching for Israel, but they're bad if they're marching against Israel? Like, Qatar is a fucking Leb.
Yeah.
So, this is just a stupid shit.
Yeah, without getting
people just want to go and take pictures and okay, if you want to go and have permission from Jews to fight people, to beat people up, join one of these things and say you're fighting the Palestinians. Go ahead. You can do that in England with Tommy Robinson. You can do that with all kinds of circumstances. You're allowed to do that. But don't fucking call it National Socialism. And don't say I'm lying when you're just literally using BAP language all the time. Okay? If I say you sound like Bronze Age pervert, if I say you sound like Bronze Age pervert, and then you use this, you sound like Bronze Age pervert, then that is by definition not a lie.
Right. When you push that line, at most, I mean, at best case scenario, you are not actually threatening them at all, and you are de facto helping them, because right now the whole world is waking up to this.
Too many people think, and this was gone for a while, But it's coming back now, and I'm going to say it. There's intelligence agencies that are propelling this shit, where people who call themselves National Socialism are just violent Tories. Okay? People who are violent conservatives are calling themselves Nazis. That's not what it is. Okay? It's not a soccer hooligan shirt that you use to go and fight at some Tory rally. Yeah. That's not what it is.
Well, but again, even leaving aside the question of who's a true National Socialist and who isn't, because we can have that debate, but leaving that aside, like, what is the global problem? What is the global solution? How do we get to it? Like, whatever the local solution is on the ground, how do we get to that? How do we get to that from, point A to point B? This most critical battle that's going on right now, that you get off Telegram. Telegram, one of the reasons why I didn't want to wade into this, and I don't want to wade into it, is because there is a subclass of, there's a mob on the same way there is on Twitter.
Mob of feds and bots.
But I mean, whether or not it is, because I see people that are not neither of those things that get caught up in the mob mentality, and I see that all the time. And I think that it's a big mistake. Sometimes people get, a friend of mine, even, I was discussing it with him, and he said that it's like sandboxes, everybody in their sandboxes, and people start performing there's like a performative kind of, actually, like virtue signaling when people get into this kind of silly social media thing. And it's like, you're losing sight of the fact.
No, I'm not even aware of it, because I know better than to look at Telegram.
But I mean, again, you're on Twitter. You see all the shit on Twitter. I see what's on Telegram because
it's less bad than Telegram. I'll say that.
Telegram
is literally just glow niggers everywhere.
Well, it's that. Plus, it's a lot of great foreign, like the real videos and truth of what's going on without the filter of, like,
Oh, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the personalities.
But let me finish.
Telegram celebs.
What I'm saying is though, is that, if you get so caught up in that, you're losing sight of the fact that the Jews are losing everyone right now. Everybody, everyone in the world, even normie cons are just, I watched videos on YouTube. Evangelical Christians are starting to say, we are losing our congregation to Catholics because we are making an article of our faith the murder of children. So it's like, this is not the time to be all like Nietzschean power, and that's the thing that I mean. Now
it is if you're paid to do that. I mean, it is. See, you're too naive. You're too naive. I know some of these people. I know some of these people, and I can see when someone's ideological evolution is not organic. I've been doing this a long time, Warren. This isn't my first rodeo. I've seen people. I used to see people like this 10 years ago.
A lot of times
that were doing it, and it always comes out later on that they're fucking running an angle, or they're informing on people, or whatever. Okay, I'm not going to say what it is.
What I'm saying though is, if you best on, in the most good faith, naive, taking it at its word. If you take these arguments and you look at them, and you look at the way this debate is being framed, when I hear, I mean, it's incredible that this thing of simping for Palestinians, that this is creeping back in after it's been basically marginalized to the fucking fringes of
blame the other. Hey, blame some of the influencers adjacent to us for platforming that dog shit. I'm sorry, that's the truth. That's the truth. Shit doesn't matter. It would be contained on Telegram with a bunch of feds telling each other that shit. Were it not for people who, for opportunistic reasons, platform those people. Okay, that's the truth. That's the only reason I'm commenting on this. Is there's people adjacent to us that platform those ideas, those wrong ideas, those deliberately wrong ideas get platformed because people see commotion. And they're like, I got to get in on this because that gets me clicks. That's just that. It's that simple. Let's move on.
But to get back to the point here about something vile brewing on the left, the thing that they've been trying to do, and they did last summer, there was a massive fail with that Jewish fraternity with the American flags. The thing that they've been trying to do is make this you're either on Team White or you're on Team Palestinian. They've been trying to make this happen for 2 years almost. And there will be a renewed push here with help from the left, with their agents on the left, because there are just as many fucking paid agents on the left as there are on the right.
I suspect that the people that led that Palestine rally in Australia are probably agents. The leaders were probably
absolutely.
Probably Battle of Greensboro, the Greensboro massacre in North Carolina. I said this before. I'm like, that's what it's going to be, because someone showed me a video where the police suddenly just let them through, and then they let the self-described Nazi group through, and then they clash and so on.
Right.
Who knows, man? We don't know.
That is in their interest. That is in their. I keep hearing the argument. Well, what if you're attacked by people with Palestinian flags? Should you not? Should you just let yourself get hit?
We went to an actual Palestine protest, and people cheered for us, and we were very, very open about being pro-white. So that is not an organic development.
That's my point. Is that we, especially as National Socialists, we have a way to argue against what's going on over there. That, unlike the whole rest of the left, our argument actually gets to the heart of what the problem is.
G-Man makes a good point where he says, so let me make something clear as well. The origin of some of these narratives is not MAGA-tards. MAGA-tards are actually better on this than a lot of these Telegram white nationalists. Someone said Thultide, that's a shill, that's got to be a Jew, was on Telegram blaming the Kremlin for that stabbing of that girl on the bus. He was inferring that it's the Russians doing it.
Yeah.
Or that they were making fun of the girl that stabbed on the bus. That's simply not true. That's not something Tucker Carlson's audience or even Sean Hannity's audience is doing. That is a specific pattern of very suspicious activity that goes on at the bottom dregs of our movement, at the very bottom of the barrel. That's where those discussions are happening. Okay, those shill discussions, because MAGA-tards don't say stuff like that. That is a kind of malice that is being directed at our audience that is coming from a very suspicious origin.
I mean, if I had a group today, I probably 90% of my protest action would be directed against Israel. I'm not kidding, because that's the weak point right now. That is the weak point. That's the big fight.
Anyone that understands power over aesthetics, anyone that understands building power over how something looks, will tell you that. It's a fundamental
and issues
friend-enemy distinction.
And again, immigration is an important issue. Of course, it's very important. There's all kinds of important issues, but it's like the crime thing that Trump is doing right now. If you could say, well, look at this girl that was stabbed. Do you not care about is what's happening to the Palestinians more important than what's happening to white people here? Well, if you go out there and say the left, let's say the left mobilizes a bunch of like Antifa and goons, and they're protesting Trump's crackdowns, his National Guard crackdown in DC. Okay, the left comes out and they're Trump is a dictator, blah 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 blah, and you show up, National Socialists, and you go and fight the left on this issue. And you say, "Oh, think of the Ukrainian girl that was stabbed. Think of all the poor white girls. How could you care more about Palestinians who are not even white than your own white girls being murdered in the streets by these murderous niggers?" But the problem is, those are all fine arguments. The problem is the role you're playing effectively in that situation is you're helping the Republican Party. You're keeping their credibility, and you're taking the focus off the thing with where the weak point is. And as I've said about a dozen times, the second that their war in Israel is won, they're going to take the National Guard off the streets, and they're going to pass an amnesty, and the niggers are going to be back stabbing white girls all over again.
That's what I mean by conflating National Socialism with edgelord conservatism. That's what I mean. Ultimately, a lot of these people believe. A lot of people believe the friend-enemy distinction is between the left and the right.
Yes.
Rather than whites and Jews. That is ultimately what this boils down to. And people who believe that are not on my side, We're not on the same side.
Right.
They're doing something different, okay? Because that is not the friend-enemy distinction that I operate on.
Yeah. Well, your analysis then is totally different from mine, and it's different from what Adolf Hitler would say, looking at the same situation.
Of course,
I mean, look at his last political testament, the last thing he said in his life. I mean,
he didn't surge the stormtroopers to defend conservatives.
That's a good example, though, because that's one of those things where, in that case, if someone were to do that right now, the argument's totally morally defensible. It's like, oh no, the poor white girl's being killed by, or the argument, well, why can't we do both? Well, the problem is you kind of can, but the problem is right now, Jewry is leveraging anti-immigration, anti-crime arguments to buttress support for Trump and this ultra-Zionism.
So he can do an Iran war.
So if you're helping that, even if you're not discrediting that, you're helping the overall thing, which as soon as it's over this little bump in the road in the Middle East, we're going to get BLM back. We're going to get back everything.
The thing is, neither liberals or conservatives, actual militant conservatives and militant liberals, neither of them have the street presence or energy to really push the envelope. So both the far right and the far left are often deployed in a sort of irregular army capacity to consolidate the interests of the Democratic and Republican parties. And then in Australia and England and all these other countries, whatever the equivalent is in those countries,
right, that
they use self-described Nazis even. We look at the Ukraine, the Azovification of the right wing. This is why I said something, is because I see this happening in real time. And I'm not going to let this take root in this country. I am not going to allow the Azovification of the far right, of the nationalist right in America. If that shit happens in Europe, if that shit happens in Australia, that's their problem. That's an island somewhere.
The other thing is,
it's not going to happen in this country.
This is the real problem with it, is that we know it's something they do. We know it's something they do, not only with Azov, but we know they did it in the Middle East with ISIS and these ideologies. It's something that, again, giving people the maximum benefit of the doubt. You can call me naive, whatever.
Yeah.
But even with
wasting your time debating them,
right? But with all that said, and that's why I'm, again, this is none of, but the thing is, once you start going in those directions, even if it's from a sincere place, even if you're justifying it because maybe you haven't thought of this, or you're thinking of it, you're looking at it this way instead of this way. Once you're going in those directions, you're making it easy to either be co-opted. Someone's going to come to you and say, "Hey, we like what you're doing there. Here's some money. Keep doing more of that." Or you're setting yourself up where some new force comes out of nowhere, is conjured up, that says, "Hey, guess what? We can do all that and then some." Like I said, that Yoram Hazony conference, the reason I spent so much time in the last show talking about that one guy, Schmidt, his speech, was because it was showing how easy someone that's just talking we true Americans got to be more American, how easy that rhetoric is co-opted and just used by a Yoram Hazony. Yes. So you don't even want to start to go in the direction of the.
There's a lot of internet people who style themselves as extremists. They say things in extreme ways, and they say racist things, and they say we should kill all the Jews and kill all the blacks, and they say stuff like that. But when push comes to shove, they see themselves as minor characters in a left versus right paradigm. They see themselves as miniature characters in a war between left liberals and right liberals. And they're saying, we're on the right liberal side. We're going to be little tiny specks on the right liberal side. And that's not what I'm for. What I'm saying is we need to uproot the paradigm and make our own paradigm that is according to, we have more power than people think. We do. Okay. And so whatever power we do have, we need to leverage it to uphold a new political paradigm, one where we break free from the left versus right phony paradigm that we've had now since 1945 with no good results for us, and perhaps try a new paradigm, which is whites versus the regime, which is Jews. Okay. It's not Indians. It's not Arabs. It's not Chinese. It's not the Chinese in China. It's not the Russians. It's definitely not the Russians. It's our regime is committing genocide against our race. Our government is our enemy. Anything beyond that is purposely trying to confuse the issue. You have the charitable view, which is that it's dumb people who are doing dumb things. I have the view that it's dumb people on the rank and file level doing dumb things, but the leaders know exactly what they're doing. They're purposely confusing the issue in order to, one, prevent any kind of organic white resistance to our Zionist regimes, and number two, for their own benefit. They gain some sort of economic benefit, or they're able to achieve celebrityship, whatever their motives are, ego, whatever it is. It's not the paradigm that we need to be operating in. That's all I'll say about that. No more.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. Multipolar perspective, something vile brewing on the left. I think they're really going to try to get stirring up the left-right.
It's not working. It's not working. What they're going to do is they're going to try to embed. They're going to get bad actors to embed themselves among Zionist conservatives and be like, look, we're Nazis and we hate Palestinians. That's what I think that they're going to try to do. Hopefully the left knows better than to take that bait, but they probably don't.
Yeah. Mary Smith gave us $50. Thank you very much. She said, happy